Welcome to the Explainer. You know that moment in a game when you collect a coin just by running through it? Or when you step into a new area and the music suddenly changes? That's not magic, but it's pretty close. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on one of Unity's most powerful fundamental tools, triggers. It's the secret sauce that lets your game react to a player without them, smashing into an invisible wall. So let's just frame the problem here, because it's something every game developer faces. Imagine you're making a racing game. You absolutely need to know the exact moment a car crosses the finish line to stop the timer. But you don't want the car to physically crash into the finish line, right? That would be a terrible racing game. You want it to pass through smoothly. This is the whole reason triggers exist, to detect presence without creating a physical barrier. So here's our game plan for today. We're going to start by really nailing down the difference between a normal collision and a trigger. Then, and this is the fun part, we're going to jump right into the Unity editor and I'll walk you through click by click how to set one up. After that, we'll write a tiny bit of code to make it actually do something, and of course, we'll test it out. Finally, we'll zoom out and see why this one little skill is, no joke, a key that unlocks a huge part of game development. Okay. First things first, before we can build anything, we have to get this core concept down. In Unity, there are basically two ways that objects can interact with each other, and it all revolves around a component called a collider. But how that collider behaves, well, that's what we need to talk about. Think of it like this. A standard collider, over on the left, is like a brick wall. It's a solid physical object. If your player has a rigid body component, which is just what tells Unity to apply physics like gravity and forces to it, it will physically stop when it hits that standard collider. You get a bump. But a trigger, on the other hand, is like a ghost. It's an invisible field. Your player can pass right through it like it's not even there, but the moment it does, that trigger acts like an invisible tripwire and shouts to your code, "Hey, someone just passed through me." One is for stopping things, the other is for detecting things. That's the whole difference. All right, enough with the theory, let's get our hands dirty. It's time to actually build one. I'm going to walk you through every single step inside the Unity editor. If you've got Unity open on another screen, I seriously encourage you to follow along. By the time we're done with this section, you'll have a working trigger right in your own project. Let's do it. Okay, so the very first thing we need is an actual game object to act as our trigger zone. So look over to your hierarchy window. That's the list of everything in your scene. Find an empty spot, right-click, and a menu will pop up. From there, just hover your mouse over 2D object, slide over to sprites, and then click on square. And just like that, you've got a new white square in your scene. Pro tip, let's rename it right now so we don't forget what it is. I'm going to call mine finish line underscore trigger. Good practice. So right now we have a plain white square. Let's make it look like a finish line. First, make sure it's selected, and then press the W key on your keyboard. That's the shortcut for the Move tool. You'll see these arrows pop up and you can just drag it into position. Next, press the R key for the Scale tool. Now you can grab the little handles and stretch that square out into a long rectangle. Perfect. Now, just so we can see what we're doing, let's make it stand out. Over in the Inspector window on the right, find the Sprite Renderer component. You'll see a color option. Click that white box and let's just pick a super obvious color, like a bright pink. Trust me, you won't miss it. Okay, this next step is absolutely crucial. For Unity to recognize this object for any kind of interaction, it needs a collider. The collider is what defines its shape for the physics engine. So with our pink rectangle still selected, go back to the inspector. Scroll all the way down to the bottom and hit that big Add Component button. In the search bar that appears, start typing Box Collider 2D. Once you see it, click it. You should now see a faint green line appear around your pink shape. That green line is the collider. It's the part the game engine actually sees. Now, let's pause for a second, because this is a really important moment. Right now, by default, that Box Collider 2D is a physical object. If you were to hit play right now and drive your character into it, you would just stop. You'd smack right into it like it's a solid wall, because as far as the physics engine is concerned, at this moment, it is a solid wall. So how do we transform this solid pink wall into our invisible detection zone? You're going to love how simple this is. Look at the Box Collider 2D component we just added in the inspector. Right there, you'll see a little checkbox that says Is Trigger. This is the whole thing. This is the magic switch. Go ahead and click it. Check that box. And that's it. With that one click, you've told Unity, hey, stop treating this like a wall. It's a tripwire now. Now, here's a quick pro tip for a common visual bug you might see. Sometimes, when you drive your player over the trigger, it might look like the player is going underneath the pink rectangle. This has nothing to do with the physics. It's just about which image gets drawn on top. Think of it like pieces of paper on a desk. The fix is super easy. Just select your player object, go to its sprite renderer component in the inspector, and find the Order in Layer field. Change that number from 0 to something higher, like 10. That tells Unity, hey, always draw the player on top of things with a lower number. Easy fix. Okay, so our trigger is perfectly set up in our scene. It's a non-physical zone waiting to detect something, but right now, it's a silent alarm. It goes off, but nobody hears it. We need to write a little bit of code to be the thing that listens for that alarm, and then, actually does something. Luckily for us, Unity has a special built-in function that is designed for this exact purpose. It's called onTriggerEnter2D. You don't have to call this function yourself. Unity is constantly watching. The moment an object's collider enters a zone marked as a trigger, Unity automatically looks through its scripts for this exact function name, and if it finds it, it runs whatever code we've put inside. It's our listener. So let's open up a script. You could put this on the trigger object itself or on your player. Let's put it on our player for now. Just open up your player's script, and inside the main class, type out this function, void onTriggerEnter2D, collider2D_other. That little bit in the parentheses, collider2D_other, is super powerful. It's a variable that Unity gives you for free, and it holds a reference to the other object that you just touched, in this case, our finish line. Inside the curly braces, we'll just put one simple line, debug.log triggered. All this does is print the words triggered to Unity's console window. And listen, debug.log might seem simple, but it is a game developer's absolute best friend. It's how we ask our game questions while it's running. Did we get to this point in the code? What's the player's health right now? It's the simplest, most effective way to test that our logic is working and that our triggers are actually talking to our script before we start writing more complicated stuff. All right, the code is saved, our object is set up in the scene. It is time for the moment of truth. Let's head back to Unity and let's get ready to see if all this actually worked. This is the fun part, seeing it all come together. So, before you hit play, go up to the Window menu at the top of Unity, go down to General, and click Console. This will pop open the console window where our message will appear. Okay, you ready? Hit that big play button. Now, drive your character over to that big pink finish line. The moment you touch it, bam! Look down at your console window. You should see it. Triggered! It works! We have officially made a working trigger. Now, something really important to understand is that onTriggerEnter2D fires just once on that first frame of contact. It doesn't keep spamming the message while you're sitting inside the zone. It's just for the entry event. Now, if you need to know when the player leaves, like to change the music back, Unity has you covered. There's a sister function called onTriggerExit2D that works the exact same way, but, you guessed it, for when you leave the trigger zone. Okay, our system works, but no player wants to see a giant pink rectangle in the middle of the game world. It completely breaks the immersion. So the final step is to make it invisible. Let's exit play mode, select our finish line trigger object one more time, and go back to the inspector. Find that sprite renderer component we used earlier to make it pink. And right next to its name, just uncheck the little box. The pink rectangle will vanish from your scene. And here is the really cool part. Even though we can no longer see it, all the other components are still there and active. The box collider2D is still there. That is trigger box is still checked. The visuals and the logic are completely separate. So if you hit play one last time and drive over that now invisible spot, check the console. The message still appears. We've created a true, invisible, secret detection zone that only our game knows about. So I really want you to take this in. What we just did, it's more than just one little trick. You have just learned one of the absolute most fundamental building blocks for making an interactive world. This concept is the key to taking a static game level and making it feel alive and responsive. Think about all the things this one mechanic enables. Collecting a power-up? That's just a trigger that adds a bonus and then destroys the power-up object. A checkpoint in a race? It's a trigger that saves your time. Walking into a new town where all the AI changes their behavior and the music shifts. You almost certainly just walked through a massive invisible trigger that surrounded the entire town. It is everywhere, once you know what to look for. And really, that's the power of what you've learned today. It's just a checkbox and a few lines of code, but it's the gateway to making your worlds feel dynamic. You now have this tool in your developer tool belt, so the only real question left is, what amazing worlds are you going to build with it? Thanks so much for watching.